So, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. This is, you can just introduce yourself.
I am Glambreezy. For anybody who does not know me, I call myself the fibroid coach, or the girlies call me the fibroid coach now. So I've adopted that. And I myself am a two-time fibroid sufferer, and I had surgery the first time. I had a laparoscopic myomectomy, and they grew back.
Mm.
And so the second time, I kind of had a decision to make of whether I was going to go ahead and have surgery or not. And I decided I'm going to try to go the natural route. And I became very successful at shrinking and managing my fibroids through holistic route remedies and things of that nature. So I'd love to talk more about fibroids and more of a natural, more holistic perspective and kind of some of the ways that traditional medicine doesn't address it
Yeah.
head on. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So whoever is here, I'm not sure if it's my community or your community, but I found you, and I just was immediately hooked. I saw like one of these essays that you wrote on like fibroids and its relationship with like emotional healing and it just was very clear that like the way that we both see medicine and healing, like even though we both have these like very scientific perspectives, like we also have this like psycho emotional layer to it. And so, yeah, I mean, I was immediately obsessed with you. I reached out, and that's how we finally got here. But, what's really interesting and what I feel like I do with this community is that, like, it's such a large community of people dealing with different things that it's like, I like to bring people like you on. I had Tara on like last week, talking about PCOS to just like go into the nitty-gritty of some of these things because this is what you do. Like this is what you do all day, every day. You talk about fibroids, you've done it for yourself, and like you're literally like doing it for all of these amazing women. So all of that to say, if you don't follow Glenpreezy already, you need to follow her if you have fibroids. Like some of the things that she posts is just like so like it just like gets to like the root, which like I feel like is what so much of like Western medicine misses with this. Um Okay, all that to be said, like fibroids are obviously like a huge topic right now, like in society. Lupita Nyong was someone who came out like very recently and was like, I had like, I think it was like 15 fibroids or something
Yeah.
growing. And so it's bringing a lot of awareness around a topic that Black women, women of color, have been suffering with for generations, right? Like my mom dealt with fibroids, her mom dealt with fibroids, but like no one was talking about the ways that we could really heal these on our own without having to get to the point of surgery.
Correct. Hmm.
Okay. So I know you just shared kind of like your personal journey with fibroids and like how it kind of led you to this work. So we will just skip that question. But what are some of the most common emotional and energetic patterns you see with women with fibroids?
Ooh. Um, the most common, I'd say, especially energetically, is emotional holding and not speaking your truth, not being in alignment. And that's like a very broad statement, but
Mhm.
it really gets a lot deeper. But mostly emotions and I don't want to say mismanagement of emotions, but somewhat of kind of just suppressing things and not processing them and allowing them to pass. And I have this thing where I say where stress is a major, major factor for fibroids, not just energetically and, spiritually speaking, but scientifically speaking, how
Mhm.
it manifests in the body and how it um, can feed their growth. It's a real thing.
Mhm.
And so when I talk about stress management and emotional management, it's like, okay, stress is not going anywhere. And I think
Mhm.
that when other people talk about stress management, there's this perception that, like, okay, we're going to manage stress. And then all of
Mhm.
a sudden, I'm not going to be affected by stress. And that's not how I see it. I see it more of acknowledging your emotions first and foremost, acknowledging why you feel the way you feel the feels, because
Mhm.
they're there for a reason. But allowing yourself to use tools to process and let pass the emotions so that you're not letting them live in your physical body and your emotional and spiritual body. And that's a major issue when we're talking about womb illness as a
Mhm.
whole.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting because I feel like, for anyone here, I'm not sure like how deep your understanding of fibroids is, but when we talk about like the pathophysiology of what's happening with like a fibroid, we're talking about an overgrowth of the myometrium. We're talking about an overgrowth of the muscular tissue. And when you think about how those things happen, you have to think about like what role other systems are playing in that, and like I think about Gabor Mate. I'm not sure if you've read his books, but he has a book that's called Where the Body Says No, and it's
Mhm.
about autoimmune conditions. And what's really interesting is that so much of women's health is like, and when women's health goes wrong, like when we've got these like pathologies, um, it's because of our immune system. Like our immune system is what's upregulating the growth of the myometrium. Our immune system is what's upregulating, the kind of like uh not turning off the cells to die and all of that. And so it's just really interesting to hear you speak about like the stress and the holding patterns because the concept of psychoneuroimmunology is what like comes to mind for me, which is this idea that your psychological state, like whether that's stress, whether that's calm, whatever it is, it's influencing your nervous system, which
Mhm.
in turn influences your immune system. And that's how we get this like the science backed, you know, understanding of these, what could be considered like spiritual concepts, which like
Right.
if you really get down to the root of them, they're not just spiritual like this is how your body works, these are the
Yes,
axes that it works on. So interesting.
very much.
Um okay, so I think when it comes to fibroids specifically, most women find them when they're, really large. Like you can live with fibroids that are like the size of like a grapefruit. Like they can be really, really big. And most women find them at the point that they're told they need surgery right now. They're told they're, infertile, they can't get pregnant with these fibroids, or they're told that like birth control is the only option because maybe they're like having the bleeding that comes with fibroids and they haven't really been taught like how to kind of do this holistically. So, what do you wish more women knew at the beginning when they find the fibroids for like holistic support?
Wow, that's a great question. And honestly, I'd go further to say that I wish more women knew before they even developed that your hormone health is a central theme here, and that hormone health plays such an incredible role in the development of these types of conditions. And, it's a rabbit hole that
Mhm.
we could go down talking
Yeah.
about why we don't know this, but, you know, it's not a widespread, thing that, hey, fibroids is a hormonal condition.
Mhm.
And they can be exacerbated by hormone imbalances. And I think something you could probably speak to, the fact that your hormones are like chemical messengers to the body. And when you understand that fibroids themselves have growth pathways, they have receptors and different things in their makeup that respond to imbalances within your hormones,
Mhm.
and that your lifestyle and your diet can play a huge role in the development of them and also the management of them. And so I think that what really needs to be said is the awareness of signs of hormone imbalance first and foremost,
Mm.
because that's where we can stop it. You know, once you've developed them, yes, of course, we have to kind of mitigate these circumstances, but I really wish that we were more aware of what signs of hormone imbalance look like in a female
Mhm.
body first.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, I feel like there's 2 concepts I kind of wanna go down with this, with, like, the first one being we're talking in terms of preventive health, which, like, our society, our Western medical system is not built for. So when you show up and you're, in I kind of separate, like, disease states into, like, 5 different ones. Like, I feel like you've got, like, 1 through 3, you're early, maybe nothing you don't have any symptoms yet in the first one. The second one, you've got some symptoms, they're not super severe. The third one, now you're starting to develop some things that we're noticing, right? And in those 3 levels, that's when you start to target things, like,
Mhm.
that's when holistic methods, that's when herbs, that's when, these, like, psycho-emotional concepts are really the most important because that's where you can prevent the development of them, you know? And I just remember when I was, like, a young doctor, like, just being like, people would come to me just all the way at state level, like, 5, where it's like, "Okay, you've got 15 fibroids now, like, we can't just do herbs and holistic methods, like, you need to get these removed, like, you're bleeding too much," things like that. So, I think that's, like, an interesting point to mention, and then back to your first point about, like, this just being hormone signaling. So, I think just going off of your point, like, I just wish that when we were in, like, primary school, like, we just had a class about how our hormones work, and, like,
Yeah.
we from the age of, like, the moment we get our cycle for the first time, like, through high school or whatever, we're constantly learning about, okay, like, estrogen imbalance looks like this, like, we can see it in the body in this way, this is an early sign of it, because at the end of the day, it's exactly what you're saying. Fibroids are literally estrogen imbalances. And like so many of the dysregulations we see, um, especially at large right now, come from estrogen imbalances, which like the idea is that how are they getting imbalanced? Like how are you getting more estrogen than you need? You're either making too much, you're either intaking too much, like too much is being signaled that's like a false estrogen, or you're not
Yep.
excreting enough? And these are all processes
Yeah.
that work like on their own. You don't have to like jerry rig the system to get them to work. Like this is how it naturally works. So
Mm.
it's just really interesting to talk about it from that, like, preventive perspective.
Absolutely. And that estrogen clearance point, wow, 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 wow. To understand that it's not only about what your body's making, but how you are clearing it or not. And that's really where your lifestyle and your diet can support you. And it's not as complicated as you might think.
Mhm.
And so that's really a very, very important point that you
Yeah.
made. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, if anyone is looking for, like, a scientific breakdown on estrogen clearance and, like, detoxing, kind of how that works in the body, I recently wrote a piece called, like, Detox Bible of 2026, and, like, there's a pretty good section in there where I speak to, like, the phase 1 and the phase 2 estrogen clearance process, and
Mhm.
and that's really what you wanna target anytime you've got an imbalance of estrogen excess.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. It just
Yeah.
my brain tingles when I hear
Yeah, this always happens to us. We're always like
I'm
we
like,
always, like, feed off
"Ooh."
of each other.
Speak on it, girl. Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. We love that science mixed with spirituality. It's just, like, so dope. Okay, so on that note, so we've gone kind of, like, deep into the science of it, but, like, what we notice and what I've noticed just in practicing is, like, we see more fibroids in like I said before, Black women, women of color, these are the women that show up with huge fibroids, or like multiple fibroids. And so we have to think about like, what are the things that lead up to that point? And so this next question I have is about, how do fibroids relate to unprocessed trauma, ancestral lineages, or emotional stagnation in the womb space that might have come from generations before you?
Wow, 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 wow,
So
wow.
loaded.
It's so loaded. And I first and foremost want to make a point that you probably are going to love epigenetics.
Yes.
And also understanding that, like, when your mom had you in the womb, what conditions she was under
Mhm.
do play a role in how your own genetics end up expressing themselves. And that's major. And I will say that, women of other races are not far behind us. It
Right.
has come to a point where it's like, oh, we're all
We're
getting
all
there. But
suffering.
absolutely, Black women are suffering far more with this. And I do believe that there are some systemic biases that we cannot continue to act like exist that don't exist. We know they exist. And when we speak about trauma
Mhm.
and the almost inherent trauma that as a woman of color that you will experience in your life has to be acknowledged. Your mother's trauma, her mother's trauma. And it just goes so deep because not only are we kind of carrying those genetic messages from your ancestors' trauma, your own experience is really important. And there are studies that have found that many women that have experienced traumatic events, especially in childhood, end up with fibroids. And I don't think that that's coincidental. I mean, you know, our conversations always have this mix of scientific and spiritual, and this is no coincidence because
Mhm.
they meet, they meet at some point, and it's like, okay, at what point is our lived experience programming our body to manifest these types of illnesses? And when we talk about the womb, you know, the center of our emotions, our intuition, our I like to call it our true voice
Yeah.
and our creative space,
Mhm.
where we birth things into existence
Mhm.
besides people,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, when we are not living our life's highest potential, when we're not showing up as our highest self, when we are suppressed and oppressed, that's where it goes.
Mhm.
So look, I got chills because this is a really deep conversation, but I don't want to like go on a tangent. But there's so much to be said for that piece of your mother's trauma
Mhm.
and what happens with you.
Mhm.
And I really want you to speak to epigenetics. I'm
Oh,
itching
yeah.
because
Oh,
it is
I'm, like, laughing over it, right?
it's a major conversation that a lot of women are not aware plays a role in fibroids.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yes. I mean, yeah, let's do the science. I mean, epigenetics, it's really interesting because I think when we first talked, I told you that that was, like, my, like, focus of, like, research when I was in my public health degree. And it's because, like, I remember learning about the concept and I just had, like, full body chills. Like, I was just like,
Mm.
this explains, like, everything in my experience, like, everything in my mother's lineage, without you even knowing, like, when you hear and you begin to understand the term, it just completely, like, opens you open to this, like, whole different world. And so for anyone who's here and has not heard the word epigenetics, we're speaking to this concept that DNA codes traumatic experiences. So one of the first studies that was done on epigenetics had to do with Holocaust survivors and how the progeny of Holocaust survivors were being more or had increased rates of specific disease profiles. And so at the time, they were studying things like diabetes and obesity and things like that. And they were looking into the generations after Holocaust survivors. And they were seeing like, oh, like this population of people whose ancestors had been through these really traumatic events are presenting with this specific disease profile. And so when they started looking deeper and deeper into like why that is, they started coding DNA, they started understanding that there's basically something that happens when you're going through a traumatic experience. Your DNA changes how it expresses. So you've got your DNA strand, and you've got ways that it's being coded to create more DNA strands. If this DNA strand goes through a traumatic experience, the changes in how that DNA strand codes pass down to the next coding of that DNA. And so now you've got a strand of DNA that's different than the mothering strain, and it's because of that traumatic experience. And so what can be missed in this conversation is how does that happen, right? And so you've got this concept of allosteric load, which is basically your stress load. Like how much stress can you deal with before your nervous system starts to read it as like a baseline. And so once you get to that baseline stress, that's when you start having these DNA changes happening, because your body's like, okay, well, like, if you think about like evolution, like I'm in a different environment. I have to start like making, mutations to adapt to this new environment. And I do like to say, because epigenetics can get so dense. I mean, it's its own form of science, but this is not meant these conversations about like ancestral lineages and ancestral patterning and ancestral trauma, they're not meant to like limit you or put you into a box, right? Like they're meant to give you an understanding of like why you might be someone who's susceptible to this. But then you start to ask about lifestyle. You start to ask about, these adaptations that you can make in your everyday environment, because the DNA doesn't get expressed until the environment causes it to express itself. So like you get passed down this DNA sequence, but it's not going to express the fibroids unless it's in an environment that creates this expression of fibroids.
I got chills, girl.
Yeah.
I got
Yeah.
chills. I just wrote an article and just spoke on this. I did a video at the end of the year about my 12 kind of reflections of last year that people with fibroids should take into to 2026. And one of them is, if you wish to heal, you have to give your body a healing environment.
Mhm.
Your body responds to the environment.
Mhm.
And that's such like a loaded topic. And
Mhm.
it's not, like you said, to make anybody feel punished or at
Mhm.
fault for their environment, but it gives you power,
Yeah.
because when you see what can be at fault here
Mhm.
truly,
Mhm.
then how can you support this on a daily basis? And that's where I tapped into this place that brought me such success and healing, because we have to broaden our lens and
Mhm.
start to kind of look outside of the box. And I feel like a lot of us have this gut feeling that there's more, but we don't have the tangible evidence.
Mhm.
So tap in, ladies, because what you're feeling is real. There
Mhm.
is so much more to it. And when you can alter that environment, both internally and externally, you can make a major change. You can make a major change. And I'm going to be talking more about exiting survival mode this year. And I've been
Oof.
talking to my community
Okay.
about that. And this is so aligned
Mhm.
because, ladies, we really just need to be intentional and conscious.
Mhm.
And of course, educated and aware so that we can make these alterations. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, Yes, obviously I'll be looking out for that one. Like this is it. It's like, how do we develop these disease states? Like we stay in survival mode and
Mm,
we stay in the mindset that this is the only way that life can be. We stay in
yes.
this concept that like you know, I think we have to think about, like, the generations, like, every generation is dealing with their own form of societal influence, right? And, like, maybe my parents' generation was just to survive, like, and that was, like, the case, but, like, we are, like, being gifted with this environment now where, like, you can create your own career, you have more freedom, you have more power, and that is why we can talk about things like survival mode and switching them off, you know? Like, we have more resources to create that as a reality.
Yes. That's so major.
Yes, it's like the root of everything, truly.
Yes, it is.
This is like we're talking about fibroids, but this is like everything. Like this is like autoimmune, this is
Yeah.
PCOS, this is ovarian. So like it just the list goes on because we like women are complex beings and our body likes to speak to us when things are wrong. Like that's it.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, okay, I mean, I guess we kind of talked about this, but if you have anything to add, I have the question of like, what lifestyle or mindset shifts do you find most supportive when beginning to heal fibroids naturally?
Oh, most supportive.
Mhm.
Um, I find that, and I probably this is I'm gonna start sounding like a broken record.
I
I
was just gonna say,
find
we're gonna just repeat this. Like,
that
get out of survival mode, y'all.
yes, alignment. Alignment is the key to everything. And we know what things are not aligned.
Mhm.
And no, you do not need to wake up and overhaul your entire life. But what you do need to do is make one aligned choice after the other. And you need to be conscious of the fact that, okay, this situation, I like to call it people, places, and things that
Yes.
you know are not serving your highest good, and how you need to shift away from that and create an existence that is more supportive to what makes you feel well, what makes you feel aligned.
Yeah.
And, I could say, oh, the first thing you should do is change your diet and go to the
Yeah.
gym or
Yeah.
think positive. And no.
It's that other stuff. It
No,
really
no.
is.
It's really because you can kale yourself to death. You can take the best supplements on earth. You can go to the gym 5 days a week. You can do all these things. But if you're
Mhm.
living out of alignment, it's what I like to say, sprinkling wellness onto dysfunction,
Yeah.
it's not going to do anything. And
Yeah.
it really is. I feel like people want me to say, okay, girl, this is what you're going to do. One,
Yeah.
two, three.
Yeah, like,
No.
there's a fix, like like, what
Yes, no. It is in the work that you are avoiding.
Mm,
It is in the work that you are avoiding those things that you know you need to get rid of. That boyfriend, that toxic job, that toxic friendship, that toxic uh, diet lifestyle that you have. That and this is goes deep, like that toxic kind of rhetoric that's in your head about yourself, your self concept,
yeah,
how you look at yourself, how you feel about yourself,
yeah,
your insecurities, your traumas, your fears, all of these things that are holding you back from your highest self expression. And it can sound overwhelming, but let's go back to one aligned choice at a time. And then when you look behind you, you go, oh, I've made so many aligned choices. All of a sudden, my life is different.
yeah,
Just one day at a time.
yeah, sorry, we're getting,
Yeah, I
like
was looking at the
yeah, the
comments. Oh, oh,
comment,
oh, oh.
we're both like, "Okay."
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, agreed,
Hmm.
okay, I lost my train of thought, actually.
We were talking about alignment, getting into alignment, the things that are not working and you know it.
Yes, okay, so this is
Yeah.
so interesting because I feel like it wasn't until I got to, like, my late 20s where I started to really see the patterns and how you're, like, external world like causes internal disease states. Like
Mm,
it is it is just it's honestly scary how like in tune your body can be when your mind is so far behind. And like,
yeah,
we speak to like being in alignment and it can be kind of this like broad thing, but like the reality of it is like and in my experience the reality of it was like you know when you're out of line. Like, when it's wrong. Like, you absolutely do, and the thing that I think comes into play is, like, we're afraid. Like, we're afraid, we've got fears of, all of these different things, and it causes us to, like, ignore our truth in a lot of moments, and I actually wrote a piece on, when the body says no. It was, like, my perspective on that, and, like, this it really when it relates to autoimmunity, because that was, what my struggle was with for so long, and it was, like, when I finally was just, this situation is bad for me. Like this is making me tired or like this is like, you just start to like be honest with yourself. I think is just like the first step to it because we don't even realize how like every day we're moving through the day and we're just not being honest with ourselves, you know?
wow. Yeah, girl. It is it that's why I call it a journey, this whole thing, because it really is. It's not, "Oh, I'm gonna do this for 30 days. Oh, I'm gonna do this for," yes, I think sometimes putting a timeline on things helps you mentally to
Mhm.
kinda structure it, but it's a journey and there's a constant unfolding and you're like an onion. And so there are depths of you that you haven't met yet, but you can't meet her if you are not being honest with who you are right now.
Mhm.
And I feel like there's so much to be said on this topic that I just love it because it's there's here's the thing. We're afraid, especially when it comes to fibroids, to face the reality because we think that the
Mhm.
reality could be worse
Yeah.
than what we've prepared ourselves for, that it's
Mhm.
irreparable and we're gonna die and like things are just so
Yeah.
doom and gloom and bad. Number one, the worst thing that can happen from facing this and really gathering the information, what I like to call discovery, when you're gathering all the information, is you can find out which way you need to go. That's the
Yeah.
worst that can happen, is
Yeah.
that you can be empowered to know these are my choices now.
Mm.
And another thing is like, you can't align with the things that are meant for you when you are not ready to face something. And what I find in all of these situations where I'm really scared, I just did a note on Substack yesterday talking to the people about, I was really fearful of this situation and my mind started getting back into
Mhm.
survival mode. And it's
Mhm.
like, I'm holding myself back from my God given resources, from my God given support. And I don't realize that I'm sheltering myself from things that can support me by not being honest, number one, and not being fully ready to embrace the situation. When you come to a point and you are done, you are tired of the hiding, you are tired of the denial, you are tired of all of the things. It's almost like you're unveiled to the world and things start coming towards you,
Mm.
options you didn't even know. You sat up for 6 months late at night googling how to heal fibroids and you couldn't find nothing. And then finally one day when you became ready, all of a sudden the things are everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's because you weren't in alignment.
Mhm.
And so I really like to talk about getting in alignment because that's a
Mhm.
tool that we don't talk about.
Yeah.
And that's your greatest tool.
Yeah.
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 But you
Oh my
got to be
god.
ready to face it. You got to be brave enough to say, hey, I'm going to change these circumstances. And I know that this situation looks bleak and there's no evidence that it can look how I really want it to look, but I can't get what I want if I don't step forward towards what I want.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God, I could literally listen to you talk all day because I just feel like we just like naturally have this progression. Like I have this next question and I'm just like, I don't even need to ask it because this,
This is
this is
crazy.
it. It just flows so like eloquently out of you. Like I'm just like literally I just need to just like let you talk and everyone just like,
No, ask me.
well, it's just the next question is like, okay, how are Black women uniquely impacted by fibroids and what
Oh.
support is often missing? But it's like, you're literally giving that support right now, like, which is like, this is why coaching in this particular topic is so important because it's half the time it's not about the diet. It's not about like, whatever. It's about like the mindset changes that need to happen. And like, you
Mhm.
know, uh, just with Black women specifically, like just being the most oppressed, like we get in these mindsets where like we disempower ourselves. And like it gets to the point where it's like, no, like we have to be the ones to own our power. Like we have to be the ones to give that back to ourselves.
Mhm.
Like even if someone else took it away, like we can't sit in that place. And so yeah, just listening to you talk about it, I'm just like, I mean, we all just need a fibroid coach. Like
Yes, we do. No, I tell my people all the time, like, y'all, I'm in here therapying myself. Like,
you're therapy us all. I'm like, if I had you and I listen, it's so funny because I don't suffer from fibroids and I haven't had that experience, but the experiences of like any like women's health, autoimmune like they're just so parallel. So like I have a specific time that I was struggling with like autoimmunity and like really what I needed to get rid of was like the relationship I was in or like the
yeah.
environment I was exposing myself to, like as simple as just saying no to certain
Mm.
things, and like just empowering myself to be like, wait, like this is not for me and that is okay,
Mhm.
Like, and then just like what you said, when you change how you relate to the world around you, it changes how it relates to you. And like,
Mm.
this is where we can start getting like spiritual woo woo, whatever, like whatever you believe in. But like, the idea is that like life meets you where you're at. If you're at a place where you're not, actually, this is actually a really good scientific support for this.
Love this.
It's called it's the concept of psychocybernetics, um,
Wow.
which is these words, I cannot, but it's this idea, and there's a really, really amazing book on it, um, called Psycho-Cybernetics, and it's this idea that when you pose to your psyche questions or, like, you're trying to solve something, you're trying to get to the bottom of something, if your belief about yourself is one in which you cannot, or your nervous system is at a place where you're just kind of, like, all over the place and you're spazzed, your, like, underlying, like, subconscious can't search for solutions. Isn't that wild? Like, your literal brain will stop you from finding the answer to your problems if you're not regulated.
Mhm. Yeah, this is wow, wow, wow. This is so aligned because I literally had this conversation. I did this 20-minute video yesterday afternoon where I was like going through it and I'm like, no, 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 I have to tell people because
Yeah.
I'm in this state where I'm seeing myself in real time reverting back mentally into survival mode
Mhm.
and I had to catch it
Mhm.
and tell myself like, hey, why do you think, because in my mind, I'll just tell you briefly what I was
Mhm.
going through. I'm
Yeah.
going through a lot of change in my life right now, and I've got a
Mhm.
lot of really major decisions to make. And,
Mm.
you know, we're human. So I get
Mhm.
nervous sometimes. I'm not always like, oh my God, brave
Yeah.
going into
Right.
it.
Yeah.
And
Perfect.
exactly. So I'm thinking to myself, like, oh my God, I'm actually I feel unsure, but I'm not worried. I
Mhm.
feel supported actually, and I feel like what I need is going to find me. And then I started thinking to myself, why do I feel irresponsible because I'm not worried? And I thought to myself, are you for real right now? Like, why would it be responsible to tell yourself and your subconscious, the universe, God, whoever, that you don't think that the outcome is going to be in your favor? Why is that
Mm.
responsible?
Oof.
Like, why would I was guilting myself for
Mhm.
not feeling bad or scared or worried that everything was going to work out, that everything was going to align. And it's like, oh, we're not going back to that.
No. Yeah.
And
Uh,
this is so beyond positive thinking.
mhm.
We could go on and on about this, but like
We
it's
could go
beyond
on.
positive thinking. It's more than that. Yeah.
I mean, it just brings to mind, like, why things like EMDR and, like, trauma-informed, like, techniques of, like, dealing with underlying, like, subconscious beliefs about yourself is, like,
Mhm.
so important when it comes to any of this stuff because it's like, yeah, like, I have a similar experience where it's just, like, it's so interesting how you can be so rooted and grounded in yourself and your mind can start to think there's something wrong because of that, you know? Because it's not your it's when anytime we talk about, like, these mindset shifts, like, I think about, like, manifestation work a lot, like, where it's like, like, it's really crazy to think that, like, one day you can be, like, experiencing life in this one way, and then the next day you could be experiencing it in this other way, and the in between space is honestly a lot to deal with. Like, you have to, like, completely change how you relate to every aspect of your life, and worrying and anxiety and, even to some extent depression, like, they are states where you feel naturally disempowered and disembodied. And so when that's your state for so long, and then you shift into this state where now I'm empowered. Now I believe that life works out for me. I've seen it. I feel it, Like it's not this like woo-woo thing. It's just like, no, like this is what life is. Like it works this
Yeah.
way. You start to question it. Like, of course, like naturally we're human. We want the evidence.
Yeah. And I just want to kind of slightly address what somebody was saying about social media and kind of the
Mhm.
news and all these things. And it ties into what you're saying. It's about what you can control. What can you control? When you look at your experience and you start to become curious about what your role can be in your experience, in your bubble, in your world, how can I support things in my world? What can I control?
Mhm.
Then your brain comes down from all of these things because obviously there's so many things going on that we have no control over.
Yeah.
And the fact that we're going to drive ourselves crazy over things that we absolutely cannot control is not helpful. But what can you control? You
Yeah.
can control this. You can control this.
Mhm.
You can control your physical body.
Yeah.
And so when you start to become present in your moment that you are given, and you start to look at things around you like, okay, I can control what I put in my body. I can control the thoughts that I put in my brain. I can control to a degree the feelings that I'm having. And you start getting really curious and almost obsessed with how can I support and better my circumstances by looking at what I can control. Things start to change and your brain stops feeling so disempowered.
Yeah.
What can you control in your world?
Mhm.
What are things looking like in your world that you would like to see look different? That's where your focus needs to be.
Mm. I feel like I just sit here, I'm just like, I feel like I'm getting, like, my own,
It's like we get, our brains start thinking about it. Come back.
It's true. I
Right
mean,
here, right now. Come back.
it's true. I mean, I Two things. So recently I wrote my full day routine, like pretty much just like wrote it out for like a Substack and like got
Mhm.
kind of into the nitty-gritty of like how I start my morning, how I end my day, like, like literally even like to the point where like when I open social media, because like
Oh,
it has to be that intentional. Like
yeah.
every single day has to be that intentional, because what you're doing is you're setting your mind and your body up to experience life in a way where your nervous system is not reacting to the world around you. And that's fucking hard. Okay? Like
Yeah.
it's hard because we are conditioned and our society is conditioned to believe that we need to constantly react.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love
Like
this.
the reality is we don't. Like we really don't. And like
Mhm.
we also don't have to have the exposure that society tries to communicate that we do. And so like I think for anyone who's just like, how do we even go about like creating a day where your nervous system is regulated? Like
Mhm.
look at that piece, because like I'm not saying everyone's morning routine, night routine needs to be the same, but just like to get an idea of like how intentional your day needs to be to keep your nervous system at a state where like, okay, maybe you go on social media, you see something less favorable, you choose to maybe unfollow that person. You choose to not go on social media at specific times of the day. You have a focused timer, like that's your choice. And so like just like what you're saying, like there's these moments where we empower ourselves or we disempower ourselves to like create these choices for
Correct.
ourselves.
Correct.
And then the second point where you were going with like surrender is like uh I actually wrote a piece coming out next week about transformation, which like is this it's just so funny because I feel like my brain like works in these like just so many categories where it's like I can talk science to you. I could talk like spiritual transformation, the energetics of how that works. Like I like it just
Yes.
like my brain is like it just goes all these places.
Yes, girl.
I know. Like I'm just like I wish I could like put myself in a box, but like I really can't. And
No.
so I wrote this piece that's called like how every transformation happens essentially. And it's this idea that like there's literally 7 steps to every transformation you ever want to make in your life, whether it's a relationship with yourself, job, like home, whatever you name it, like and the first step is always noticing,
Mhm.
like being honest with yourself, and the last step is always because you can't control certain things. Like you can't, and it's causing your nervous system to be dysregulated when you feel like you can, because
Oh,
you can.
yeah. Oh my God. I know this is a like a controversial statement, but you kind of have to start to be selectively ignorant. And I know that sounds crazy, but if you really think about it, if you didn't see that, how would that change the circumstances? If you weren't aware, would it change what happened? You got to be really real with yourself. Like,
Yeah.
how does you knowing that change the circumstances and also your own circumstances? And that intentionality, like being super intentional. And I always like to tell people during our like sessions, you have to almost remother yourself and treat yourself like a baby. You are the baby. And would you expose the baby to these things? Would you be concerned about what's going in the baby's ears? Would
Mhm.
you be like, oh my God, what's in that? Oh my God, is this too hot? What? The baby cannot have
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
The baby needs to go to sleep. The baby needs to play. The baby, you know what I mean? And it's almost like treating yourself like, I cannot handle that.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's okay for you to say, these are my new boundaries.
Yeah.
These are my new boundaries. And I'm in a healing phase right now. And my nervous system is primary business for me.
Yes.
And I can't manage that. And so
Mhm.
you have to set boundaries for the baby.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's your job to
Yeah.
say, I need to be more intentional about what I'm allowing come in here. Because, we just talked about how epigenetics and all of these things quietly are playing a role in how your health is manifesting. And it's a rough time to be talking about this. It sounds very irresponsible to be
Mhm.
like, girl, focus on yourself. But if you never focus on yourself, this is the best time.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
assure you.
It's so true. I mean, I think about and maybe I'll write a piece about it, about the importance of delusional, like, thinking. Like, it's just, like, so important to be, like, delusional, to be honest, because, like, delusion is only delusion until your outside world matches your inside world,
Ooh,
and if you can hold your inside world as delusional as possible, like, it's just a matter of time before the outside world mimics that. So it's just kind of like I feel like we're really moving out of this age where, yeah, like, hyperconsumption is considered, like, the norm. Like,
yeah,
we shouldn't really be consuming, like, certain things all the time, and, like, to be honest, you need, like, just like you said, you have to have boundaries around that stuff because it'll change how you think about yourself, it'll change how you think about your life to just, like, literally say no. Like,
yeah.
"No, I'm not gonna consume that information today." Like, it's so funny because I think about how my family, like, behaves when I'm around them.
I can only imagine.
It's like, I'm not gonna expose my morning to that, you need to turn that off. Like, you know what I
Ooh,
mean? I just won't. Like, and I feel like also I'm in this phase where, like, similar to you, like, so much around me has changed, so much has transformed, like, I'm very much, like, adapting to the new norm, and I am just like I was saying, like, literally at the beginning, I'm unapologetic about it. Like, we're not doing it. Like, I'm not no, I'm not listening to the news at this time of night. I'm not, you know what I mean? It's like it's a very
yeah,
specific, intentional way of living that I mean, I just wish we were all just taught this at, like, 10, you know? Like, you could choose what you
yeah,
input, you can choose what you exput or export. You could just choose.
yeah. You can, you
Ugh,
can. And it's like I dated this guy once, and he used to turn on ESPN bright in the morning, and I
ugh, my
used
god.
to say, how can you manage other people's opinions before you even know what you're thinking?
Oh, wow. Mhm.
How can you put somebody else's perspective in your mind before you've even set your own perspective?
Yep,
It's
yep.
too much for me. Like, I cannot. I don't want to hear nothing about what nobody think in the morning when I first wake up.
Oh
What do
god.
I think? And
Yeah.
like the easiest thing to start doing instead of waking up and opening social media is to do gratitude.
Yeah, girl.
Wake up and think about what you're grateful for.
Mhm.
Thank the Lord or the universe or what have you for waking up. What do you want to see out of your day? What do you want to achieve today? What do you feel like? What do you feel?
Yeah.
What was your dream like? Recap your dream, write
Yeah.
something down. Like, there's so many things you can do to set your day off in a better vibrational essence than open up doom and gloom box.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to hear
Yeah.
it.
There is so much neuroscience to support this concept right here, which is like the more intentional you become with your day, the more intentional your thoughts become. Like
Mhm.
it's just the science. Like you have to have intention around how you're living your life. Like your brain responds well to it. Like it literally like I said, the psycho cybernetics, like that happens on its own. Like, you don't have to sit here and think of a solution. Your brain will literally come up with it by itself if you just, like, slow down for a second, decrease some of the stimuli you're getting, and just sit. Like,
Yeah.
let it be.
Just be. Yeah,
Just
just be.
be. Yeah, just be. Okay, so I wanna open it up to some questions from just everyone that's here, just in case anyone is like sitting on a question and they want to ask it. If not, like we can just keep chatting. But I did want to give people an opportunity to ask any questions that came up for you. And yeah, maybe give us a time to take a little sip of water.
Come on up, anybody.
Yeah,
Questions,
anybody.
thoughts.
She's here. She has this like amazing brain and it's like the most amazing thing
Oh
ever.
my
Like,
God.
do you have a coaching question? Do you have a question about fibroids? Do you have a question about like intentional diet and day? Like as specific as it needs to be, but like she's here, y'all, and she's accessible.
Yes, I know. It's been such a journey though. And I was telling someone on a call the other day, like, listen, I'm sitting and I'm talking to you, but I'll
Mhm.
tell you, 3 years ago, I was a completely different person.
Mm,
Oh, intentional diet. Shameless plug. I just launched a fibroid nutrition reset guide.
mm,
And it is kind of the blueprint that I used in terms of diet and the method, because it's not so much about what you eat as it is about how you eat and why you eat.
mhm,
And I will put it in here, but diet is major here. And for me, my approach was first and foremost anti-inflammatory. Um, and whether you decide to consume meat or not, I think that that is a big debate, but I don't, having been on both sides, it's okay, whatever you choose. It's about the quality and sourcing, I think, and that's with every food that you eat. I think you also need to be concerned about how often that you're eating because blood sugar management is so underrated as
mhm,
far as it relates to our eating schedule and how often we're eating. We're starving.
mhm.
We are literally starving. And if we want to support our nervous system and let our nervous system know that there's not scarcity
Mhm.
and that, it doesn't have to, our body doesn't have to worry about when our next meal is going to come. You need to eat more often. And
Mhm.
there needs to be intention behind that. Also, the proper amounts of protein, fat, and fiber.
Yes.
And there's a lot of nuances to eating for fibroids that I found to be, first of all, super unique because a lot of people think, oh, I'm eating healthy and I don't understand why my body may not be responding. But the female body needs certain things. And
Mhm.
we can't keep looking at this standard of healthy eating and like we're eating a bowl of lettuce and you don't have enough protein. You
Yeah.
don't have enough to ground it. There's no fiber. And, you know, you need fiber in order to help with estrogen clearance and blunt your blood sugar responses and all of these things. So there's a lot to be
There's so
said
much.
for it. And the best thing I would really highly recommend you, if you're not following me on Substack already, please follow me on Substack. And then also I'll link my Fibroid Reset Guide because it's
Perfect.
a really great resource, if I might
Mhm.
say so myself.
Yeah. I 100% agree with everything you said. I think that there's something to be said about like especially in fibroids like a cold womb state and
Ooh.
like Ayurveda, like they talk about not eating uh just like things that decrease the circulation of the womb. They call that like cold womb. Um and like the point behind that is like okay, like you might think you're eating something nutritious because it's like got all these veggies in it, but if you're eating something raw, you're decreasing the circulation to your womb.
Well, somebody said that she loves the guide. Sorry. It made a
Okay.
huge difference when I understand why I'm eating the way I am. my aim is to reduce my 7-day bleed. Any advice? Did you want to speak to that? I didn't mean to interrupt you,
Yeah,
but I
I can
just saw
speak to
that.
that. Okay, well, first, amazing. So the guide is amazing. Buy it if you have any questions about the diet of fibroids. And then in order to reduce the 7-day bleed, you actually have to start thinking about what's happening that's causing that bleed to be longer. I mean, I could go, there's so many directions to go with this, but one thing you have to recognize if you've got like an estrogen state that's causing more bleeding, like with fibroids in general, like it's hard to reduce the bleed of those because those naturally have a certain bleeding load. So if you reduce your fibroids, you don't have any fibroids, things like that, then you start thinking about, okay, like how much estrogen do I have during this time? How much progesterone do I have during this time? And it's not necessarily important to like get into the nitty gritty. Like you don't need to get like a Dutch panel or anything, which the Dutch panel is just, it just shows you like what the levels of your hormones are during the month. But what you do have to understand is that there's certain signs that estrogen is too high during the time that you're bleeding and progesterone is too low. And when progesterone is too low while you're bleeding or your estrogen is too high, it increases the amount that you bleed. It increases like how many days you bleed, it increases the heaviness of your period. So really, again, it just comes down to like pretty much getting rid of estrogen dominance, making sure that you're excreting all the estrogen you can before you start your period. And I'm not sure if you guys know about like my flow, like that app. I'm really into like femtech and like just like women's health apps essentially. And like one of the things that I do is I consult for women's health technology companies to like build educational resources for women. And one of the things that the My Flow app talks to you about is uh, progesterone preservation because you essentially, you have a certain amount of progesterone that you produce throughout your life, and you are essentially trying to preserve that progesterone as you get older. And so you don't want to have really low levels of progesterone when you're cycling because essentially you'll bleed longer. That means you have more estrogen. That means that your body's responding more so to estrogen than progesterone. And so you're having more cramps. You're having, less of like this like progesterone's like the calming hormone. It's the hormone that like calms your body. So essentially, if you're trying to reduce your 7-day bleed, the goal is to decrease estrogen, increase progesterone throughout your cycle
Yeah.
in a
And I
nutshell.
also have a an article on my Substack about how I was able to decrease my bleed. And I talk about all the things on that, which is up on my Substack as well.
Yeah. So, okay. So she said, yes, I do have fibroids. So naturally with essentially the holistic fibroid lifestyle that Glambreezy teaches on, you're naturally going to decrease your bleed because essentially what's causing the heavy bleeding we can assume is the fibroid. So the moment that those start to reduce in size, you stop getting this kind of reaction when you're cycling that is like more blood essentially.
Yeah. We also did miss a question
Um,
up here about energy. She
Oh.
said, I just joined and don't have a specific question, but I'm struggling to eat well while being so tired all the time.
Mm, that's
Um,
loaded.
that is very loaded. I will tell you, just from my own experience, I used to be so fatigued that almost I thought I had narcolepsy or something. And a lot of it had to do with nutrient deficiencies. I was anemic.
Mhm.
I was deficient in many different vitamins. I also was not managing my blood sugar, and my blood sugar was all over the place, as well as I wasn't eating nutrient dense foods that helped to support all of those things. And
Mm,
so, I would highly recommend doing some labs just to at least check where things are for you internally. Because if you don't have solid evidence, it's hard. You could stab in the dark forever. Fatigue
yeah.
is a symptom of how many different things. So, it would be better for you to kind of look and know for sure about certain things. But if you do have fibroids, there's a high likeliness that you may be suffering from anemia, especially if you've had heavy periods. So getting some labs would be really, really advisable, from
Yeah.
my perspective.
I would agree. I suffered from like pretty severe fatigue um while I was in residency. And one of like I just think you could probably separate it into three things that are probably causing that. Like, you know, definitely get labs because, vitamin D deficiency, anemia, other deficiencies are gonna naturally cause fatigue, just because essentially you don't have the nutrients to like move throughout the day. You're working with like a lower load, and because all of these nutrients are working in other, um, you think about like the biochemical pathways, you essentially don't have the like support through those biochemical pathways to like have a balanced day or like sleep or anything like that. Um, I also think like fatigue can be a very like psycho-emotional thing. Like if you do get labs and then you are like, okay, like I'm not anemic, I don't have anything wrong in that sense. Um, you just have to start looking at like your life. Like you just have to start looking at like what are the things that like I'm doing? Where is my energy leaching? Who is it leaching to? Like, you kind of have to get granular about things like that if you find out that all your labs are normal. But in my experience, there's usually like one or two labs that are abnormal when you're naturally having fatigue all the time.
Mhm.
And
She
then
says
she
she
did
is anemic.
oh, okay, yeah. And then she did say like she's struggling eating well because she's tired all the time. Um, Like, naturally, if you do get the labs and then you find out that you're low in something, you just would supplement that and essentially the fatigue should like go away. But sometimes there's an in between where you need to also eat in relationship to that. So doing things like meal prepping, like easier meals, bone broth is always like a really easy way that you
Mhm.
can just get high dense minerals like in a really quick amount of time. And just like empowering yourself to know that like you like those little moments like where we're like scrolling or things like that, like we have to find the time to prioritize our health, um, even when it feels like we can't.
Yeah. Oh my
Okay.
God. Favorite liver support
Yeah.
rituals? I was
Yeah.
living for that.
Mhm.
I Girl, your liver, if you have fibroids, your liver is your best friend.
Yeah.
Your gut and your liver are like, those are the real babies.
Mhm.
And for me, when it comes to liver support, first and foremost, fiber. Wow, wow, wow.
Mhm.
Fiber is one of the more easy things to get in your diet, and it can help with that estrogen clearance. Um, for me, there's so many different ways you can support. I do like herbal teas, like, dandelion root.
Yeah, I was gonna say
That's
that's my favorite.
that's my favorite.
That's the best. If you want like just a straight herb that's gonna detox your liver, dandelion root is the best and it's easy to incorporate every day.
Yeah, it is. I don't know. I really don't like to speak to supplements too much, but I know that there are some that are proven to really help, like DIM or diindol
Damn.
L-methane.
Yeah, I would say that.
That bad boy has really, really played a huge role in my own liver support, stack. And I'd say check into it because it's pretty awesome. But also cruciferous vegetables and things like that can be helpful as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and essentially, dim is just cruciferous vegetables. So it's just like it's
Yeah.
basically like a dense compact of like, there's other things in it, but one of the main ingredients is essentially the chemical that's in cruciferous vegetables, um, or the organic compound. And like along with that point, like the essay I wrote about detoxing in 2026, it has essentially a breakdown of how you can support your liver just in terms of like what the supplements would look like. Like you need certain B vitamins. Like you're kind of just looking at like you've got phase 1 and phase 2 liver metabolism, and you're looking at what the cofactors for those biochemical pathways are, and you're making sure you have enough of each of those. So usually it's better to be able to just see that broken down. So that's in that essay. Um, but, to what Glambreezy was saying, you have a essentially with the gut, like, that's the only way whatever the liver is breaking down gets removed. So that's why, like, fiber and, like, things like beans and the things that are gonna draw your hormones into your gut and keep it there so that you can poop out the excess. It's essentially like there's no other, like, nice way to say it, like poop is your friend. You need to be pooping every single day. You need to be pooping because that's
Yeah.
how you get rid of these excess hormones. Like
I have
there's
a
no
video all about it.
there's no other way.
Check
And
out,
like
yeah.
I feel like I like be talking to someone and they'll be like, I have a lot of like estrogen excess, all the things, but I'm not pooping. And I'm just like, girl, like you are literally just holding on to
It's
everything your liver just
recycling.
needs. Yeah, you're just like reabsorbing it. There's this really interesting biochemist who created these they're she's like modules on different things, but like one of the main things she teaches on is something called like the bean diet
Mhm.
for hormone irregularities and dysregulations, and it works really well for women who are like infertile, not infertile, but like essentially like unable to get pregnant because they've got some sort of hormone imbalance. Because essentially what you're doing is you're just getting rid of all the excess hormones. You're drawing all of that into the gut, which psyllium husk is another really good way to do that, and then you're making the right adequate amounts of the hormones you need. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I feel
That
like
all is addressed in my guide as
oh,
well.
perfect,
Yep.
perfect. So, like, yeah, so I feel like the gist of it is, like, if you need help balancing specifically for fibroids, just, like, buy the diet guide, uh,
Yeah, it really
because
does break it down.
that's gonna break it all down for you. It's just like a straight straight shot. Um, okay. I am not seeing any more questions. I did see someone say, I'm also anemic, and my sister who is struggling with fibroids and found out she is too. I have been really liking pre-made side dishes that can be served cold. I like Korean side dishes because they're packed with iron. That's a really good pro tip for anyone who's having trouble um, prioritizing iron-rich foods. And then also spinach and soybean sprouts. Yeah, I think that's true. Also, if you're someone who doesn't eat meat, I mean, God, I could talk for days about. I know I could talk for days about it, but because mainly because I was someone who was like vegan and vegetarian for like most of my life, and then started having hormone problems and had to really like like have a truth sit down with myself about like why I was that.
Yeah.
And the reality of it is women like benefit from the enzymes and the minerals that come from meat. Our
Mm.
wombs benefit from them. Not to say there's not ways you can get it without meat, but the reality of it is you're not going to get it in the same way. And so
Correct.
that's why, like, for me, the major end to eating meat and things like that was bone broth. It helped me so much. I feel like you can put bone broth in anything. I've got my recipe posted. Like, you can make rice with bone broth. You can make soups with bone broth. You can literally just lace it into your food so that you
Yeah.
don't have to think about it. Um, and that's how you get your iron, you know?
I live for bone broth and I
Yeah.
always have it around. I
Yeah.
always have it. It's such a quick, easy way to incorporate some nutrient density into your diet without having to overthink it.
Yeah, and it's anti-aging. I mean, I could go on
That's
for
great
days
for your
about that.
gut.
It's great for your gut. It's gonna like
Girl.
rebuild your barrier lining. Like bone broth is magic, and our ancestors have been using it for centuries, and we just like got lost somewhere in the mix, I guess. But I
Totally.
mean, realistically, I grew up. My mom has always made bone broth, and like she would like force it down our throats, like when we were sick.
Your mom knew.
She knew. I mean, her mom was, like, a healer and, like, always made bone broth, so, like, it was just, like it was, like, I was bound to come full circle, you know? I was bound to, like, realize she was onto something, it literally she, like, aged backwards when she, like, went back to drinking bone broth, like,
I love it.
it it's just all the collagen, all the goodness. Okay, so we're far over an hour, but I want to answer those questions. We'll just have to bring you back. I mean
Yes, please do. I've enjoyed it so much, and girl, we
I
are
know.
here. We're on.
We really are. We just, like, could go for hours. I feel like at some point we just need to just, like, have a Q&A and, like, people just come with their questions and we could just, like, talk for I feel like
Yes.
you, me, and Tara would be, like, really good together because we could get to the root of, like, so much shit. Like, I just
Let's do it, girl. Yes.
Okay, well, thank you so much. This was amazing. I can't wait for, people to be able to see it. It's gonna live on both of our pages, so, if you wanna listen to it again, if you missed some things at the beginning, it'll be posted either tonight or, whenever. Um, but yeah, thank you so much
Yes.
for
It was such a pleasure. And I just wanted to say to your community, thank you so much for having me. I see some of my girlies in here
I love that.
also. So please follow her. And if you are not following me, please come on over to my Substack, girl.
Yeah.
Come chat with
If
me.
you have fibroids and you're not following the fibroid coach, I don't know what to say. You're missing so much juice. It's so good. I follow her and I don't have fibroids. Like,
Yes,
you
come on
know?
over.
Yeah, and I feel like that was such a major reason why we wanted to do this because, like I said, I have this kind of like mixed mash community, but like I like to give people the resources that are like supportive for what you're specifically struggling with. So yes, please go to her page, please follow her. And yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me and Happy New Year.
Bye, everyone.
Bye
Happy
bye.
New Year. Have a good night.
Bye bye.